I'm going to sit up so I don't look so much shorter than you.
Welcome to Recovery TV Live. Today we're going to talk about gaslighting, so don't go anywhere. Hey everybody, welcome to Recovery TV Live. I'm Josh and this is my colleague Carrie. We're your co-host of this episode. This is our first time to do this on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah.
So welcome all you YouTubers out there that are watching live. We're going to talk about gaslighting today, which is kind of a buzzword right now, it seems.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time when we would, when I remember when I first learned about gaslighting, and it was years before it really kind of picked up momentum. So a lot of you have probably heard of it. But before we get started, let's go over just a couple housekeeping things real quickly. We want you to participate in this as much as you feel comfortable doing so, but we also want you to know that, or to remind you that YouTube Live is a public platform. So, you know, it'd probably be worth to be mindful of what you're posting and to decide if it's something that you want to ask and potentially reveal your identity, basically. So we actually have a way for you to submit questions to us anonymously. And so our lovely assistant is going to post that right now. You can probably see that on your screen. And you can submit questions to that email that you see. And Hannah will be standing by to retrieve those emails. And as they come through, we'll get, when we get to our Q&A portion, we'll address that too. So, but we're also watching on the comments coming through on YouTube as well. So, but we appreciate you being here. While you're on here, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and click that bell so you can be notified as we post videos and a number of other pieces of content. So,
Right.
So anyways, let's talk about gaslighting. So we're just going to have a conversation basically about it, and like I said, feel free to ask questions. And so I remember when I first heard the term gaslighting was probably 15 years ago. Probably. Sure. I actually remember a good friend of ours, Kelly Roberts. You know, she's the one who told me about it back when I was in grad school, and so I've pretty much known about it for a while. But here recently, it's really a lot of people are
using it. I think it's kind of part of the popular vernacular.
Right.
I think it's kind of seeped into the awareness, the consciousness of the masses.
Right.
The way that it's used, and people are talking about it without us having to introduce it.
Right.
Which is different than the way that it was 15 years ago.
Sure, and I think probably just in the political realm too, we're seeing that term thrown around a lot, and that probably has given it momentum in terms of people recognizing or asking the question, what is this gaslighting phenomenon, right?
Yes.
So we typically work with gaslighting. We see that a lot in the work that we do with betrayal trauma recovery, so we're going to talk about it in the context. Right,
we're going to talk about it from a relational perspective, an intimate relationship perspective.
Right. So let's go ahead. How would you define it, Carrie?
I think the easiest way to describe it is trying to make somebody feel crazy for what they're experiencing in an attempt to cover up something kind of shady. Right.
Yeah. Historically, in our profession, we often have referred to it as crazy making.
Right.
You know, so it's basically anytime someone is making you feel crazy in an attempt to keep something else hidden or something else secret. And, you know, the term originally came from a 1940s movie, I think, called Gaslight, starring Ingrid Bergman. And I've watched that movie, and, you know, it's pretty scary what people in her situation are going through that are being gaslit. Now, in her situation, you know, he's probably more of a sociopath.
Right.
Right. And there is a lot of gaslighting going on in couples, especially when especially when there's infidelity involved.
Right.
But I would say that most of them are far from being sociopathic.
Right, right.
But it's still gaslighting.
Right.
And it's hurtful.
It's hurtful. And
right.
I do think the intention of why someone would be using gaslighting is important,
Mm-hmm.
you know, different from the character in the movie. It's usually out of desperation, stalling, buying time, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it is still very hurtful, and it does leave a mark, basically.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It is very hurtful because it's well. Let's talk about let's kind of organize this a little bit. Let's talk about the partner first, then we're going to move into the person who's actually doing the gaslighting. So,
Okay.
Gary, you're someone who works very regularly with partners of sex addicts or partners who have been betrayed
Right.
through infidelity. So, what are some of the things, like when someone walks into session and they start talking about what's been going on, and you start picking up on, this sounds like gaslighting, like what would you be seeing there?
Yeah, well, it does vary, obviously, the actual behaviors of the content. But a lot of times what it looks like is a partner saying, I've asked for certain things that are usually around transparency, right? So I've asked to see bank accounts or to see, you know, cell phone data plans. I've asked for information about whereabouts, about what's going on. And I've been told that that can't happen for a variety of reasons, right? And, or I've been questioned, why do you need that?
Right.
Right. That's, and then this is the word, that's crazy. That's over the top. I'm
Right.
not going to live under surveillance, Big Brother, etc.
Right, right. Something else too, speaking of like bank accounts and data, something that we work on with couples that are doing recovery is what I say a lot is the data's got to line up, you know? So what the partner often sees is that the data isn't lining up.
Right.
They bring it to the attention of their spouse or partner, and their partner basically has all these excuses, and then the partner goes, am I going crazy here?
Right.
Like, it's not lining up, and the partner basically says, oh no, you're just not seeing it correctly.
Right. Right.
Am I going crazy? And you know, I can't tell you how many times I've looked a partner dead in their eyes and said, you're not crazy. In
Right.
fact, you're likely the saner one in the relationship.
Sure. Sure.
You know?
Yeah. But it's that feeling twisted up like a pretzel on the inside that is so psychologically, relationally, and emotionally torturous for those partners, because they love this person. They want to believe this person. They want to believe the best in this person. That's why the gaslighting is effective. If you didn't care about them, then their opinion would not leave this mark.
Absolutely.
But because you do care, and because they're using you against you, it's incredibly hurtful
Right.
and incredibly distressing.
Yeah. And something to think about too, so like if this is resonating with you, or you've experienced gaslighting, or you think you have, it's basically it's learning to trust your gut.
Right.
So if your gut is telling you something's awry, something's amiss, you know, it's going to signal that viscerally for you.
Absolutely.
So you're going to feel it maybe in your gut or other places in your body, and that's your body saying something's amiss here,
Right.
you know. And then your mind is going to kind of get imaginative on what that might be. Now that part, you might be off on that. Like
Sure.
that, you could be wrong on that, on the imaginative element of it. But your gut is still telling you something's off. And what I tell people is like, that's worth a conversation.
Right.
That's worth paying attention to, because you got to learn to trust your gut. Your brain is taking in so much stimuli and processing it in ways that you are completely unaware of.
Yep.
And so when your body has this visceral reaction, sure, it could be a trigger from something of your past
Sure.
or things like that, but it's worth a conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And that is something that we really encourage when we're talking about recovery, is having that conversation. But even before that, I've noticed that it's hard for partners to even pay attention to when their body's telling them something.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And so even getting more in touch with the way that your brain and body are trying to alert you to, this doesn't smell right. Something's fishy here. And slowing down and taking that information in, that's some of the first pieces that we do. And it's really amazing to watch people learn what their body is telling them, right? As they go through this recovery process.
I also think too, like for me, as someone, yes, I'm a therapist, but I'm a person too, and someone that is observing this happen in session. It's one of the saddest experiences for me, watching someone say my gut is telling me this, but I don't trust my gut.
Right.
You know, because that's so important for just feeling safe and secure, and that's really you know, in here anyways, kind of the beginnings of their storytelling of a sad story, basically.
Right.
So.
I think it's probably one of the longest lasting impacts of betrayal trauma is that you've lost trust in yourself. And it is one of the saddest things to help people work through as a therapist, for sure.
Yeah.
Because our brains and bodies are an amazing gift. And so when it starts to feel like you can't trust it, it is very, very distressing. It is a really sad part of the story.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the things that if you're a partner who has been betrayed through infidelity or just other means, part of the process, at least in how we approach it, is learning to trust yourself again, learning to trust your gut.
Yeah.
At least in the minimum of saying it warrants a conversation. Why not? Like, why does it make me crazy? Because this feels wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And there's something else I would encourage you to ask yourself is go back in time and ask yourself how many times was your gut wrong?
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of people will see that they're more right than wrong.
It's kind of that silly saying, right? If it smells like a horse and sounds like a horse, it's probably a horse. Could be a zebra. It's probably a horse.
Yeah, the zebra analogy. Yeah.
And that is something to think about. And in the clinical work that I do, when people are telling me that they feel something in their gut, I usually kind of anticipate that that's probably the truth. Could be a zebra, they could be wrong, but it's probably so. And so encouraging people to pay attention to that and begin the conversation, be brave enough to do that. That's really important. And I don't think you can change the pattern of gaslighting.
Right.
I don't think it's as effective. I don't think you can ask the person that has done the gaslighting to just stop. Stopping the behavior would be helpful, but healing the wounds that have happened interpersonally to the betrayed person, that's the longer term goal of treatment. Right.
And so I want you guys I want to be clearer with people that are watching this to just remind you that what Carrie is talking about is not the imaginative piece of it, because when you've been betrayed, your imagination is not very friendly to you.
No.
And so it will take you to some very dark places, and maybe, you know, some of that's true, or it could be a possibility. It's basically your brain saying, like, look, I've got to protect you, in you know, kind of when people say, like, assume the best, prepare for the worst, or something like that. You know, your brain's preparing for the worst case scenario to protect you, so it's going to take you to really dark places.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that's actually what's happening. So, but when your gut is getting all twisted up, there's probably something going on that warrants a conversation about, at minimum, a conversation. So.
Right. Sure.
So if you guys have any questions about that for partners, you know, what it's like for partners or experiences, things like that. One thing I've noticed is we've done a couple YouTube videos on gaslighting, and you're more than welcome to go check those out. Yeah. I just noticed, like, on the comments and things like that, that people are, you know, very, how do I say it, like, just very hard-lined with it, you know, like, you know, just when this happens, people that are gaslighting are bad people and things like that, and I don't want to, you know, censor that or anything like that, or to say people that are commenting that are shouldn't be saying those things or anything like that. But I do want to offer kind of a different perspective on it from what we see on this, because what's happening, like, to Ingrid Bergman in the movie Gaslight, was like, that's a bad dude.
That was abuse.
Right. No question.
Sure.
And abuse in the worst kind of way, like abuse in someone who delights in it, you know. And so when it comes to the people that we're working with that are doing the gaslighting, they don't fit that bill. Right. They're good people, And a lot of them don't even realize that's what they're doing.
Right.
Now, disclaimer here, that doesn't excuse them from it. It doesn't
Sure.
make it any less hurtful, and that there shouldn't be consequence for
Right.
that.
Right.
But I do want to recognize that people who get caught up in gaslighting, they see it as the best route to keep in a weird way, they're trying to protect the family system.
Sure.
Because when they know they've been up to this, that, and the other,
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, that information is going to be highly disruptive and create a lot of chaos and a lot of pain and hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to keep that chaos from entering into the system, they will gaslight and not really realize that what they're doing is this form of psychological abuse
Right.
to this person that they love the most in the world.
Right.
So
I think it's a short-term solution to
yeah.
a problem.
absolutely.
And I think recognizing it as that and framing it as that and processing that with people is helpful. Doesn't take, like Josh said, doesn't take the pain away of the experience, but understanding that it really kind of is, robbing Peter to pay Paul in a sense in that moment.
Yeah.
If I can get you distracted or confused, I can live to breathe another day.
Right.
And this secret
right.
or this pain won't come out and we won't be destroyed. There is a protective element to it.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's as you said, how did you say it? Like it's the short-term solution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like in their mind, it's like, I'm just going to do this today so that I can get to the next day and then I'm going to figure it out.
Sure.
And that's part of the lies that people tell themselves
Right.
on, that, I'm going to start tomorrow, or how many people smoking cigarettes that said, this is my last one, right? And it's kind of that phenomenon. And what's interesting about it, or the paradox of it, is that the short game becomes the long game.
Absolutely.
I was talking to someone the other day about weight loss, on how people who struggle with weight loss are often like if a doctor says, look, if you lose 1 pound a month for 3 years, that's 36 pounds. That's a lot of weight, 36 pounds, and then the person will be like, gosh, I got to wait 3 years
I know.
to lose 36 pounds. And then next thing you know, it's 3 years later and they're still in the bad habits, still maybe even gaining weight.
Sure.
And it's like the short game. They're looking for a short game to fix everything, but it ends up being the long game anyway.
Right.
Where the long game actually would be the short game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways,
But that's what desperation does to you. And,
Well, yeah.
and clients and just people that are keeping secrets from people that they do truly love.
Right.
Desperation is the name of the game.
Right. Yeah. And when sex addicts or what we say the acting out partner, so the person that has committed the betrayal, when they come to realize what they've been doing when it comes to gaslighting,
Right.
most of them are pretty torn up about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's one of I think the most shameful, pieces of their recovery that they face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been doing this all along. Because when they get that contextual information of the pain that they've caused, and they see that injury within their partner, in their minds, like, I thought I was shielding them from my indiscretions, from my addictions or whatever,
Right.
but then they realize that they just constantly chipping away at this person over years, and it really tears them up and creates a lot of shame that they have to deal with, and that.
Yeah,
So,
it does.
yeah.
And the partner, as they process through this, realizes how much of their own life they hadn't known about. And that devastation kind of goes along with, it seems to me, starts to happen for the partner at the same time that the person who's kept the secrets and acted out is facing their shame about the way that they've gaslit and covered up their behavior. And so it's that part of recovery is painful, the loss, the grief, and the shame that comes from trying to recover from gaslighting.
Right, absolutely. One of the questions people often ask is, what do we do about it? what do we, each individual, the coupleship, how do we recognize it, and then what do we do, to it, or to stop it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's obviously specific and complicated, but really it's kind of what you said earlier, which is the way I help clients think of it, is that your eyes and ears need to match.
Right.
So, if you say you're here, then I need to see with my eyes and hear with my ears that you're where you say you are. And creating that kind of accountability and match up helps both people start to experience the truth telling.
Right.
But it takes obviously repetition of eyes and ears really matching up for clients to start to trust, and for the person who's gaslit to start to recognize that truth can be safe.
Right.
Right. That they can tell the truth, whether it's challenging or difficult, and that's okay. They don't need to resort to that desperation of gaslighting.
Yeah. So something I would say to the partners who are experiencing gaslighting is, when it comes to trusting your gut, to add to your bag of your toolbox, so to speak, is, I was going to say bag of tricks, but that
it's not tricks.
we don't want to be.
No.
We're not tricking anybody,
tricky.
right? But to add to your toolbox, certain types of phrases or responses that you can commit to memory, so that you have them ready to go. It's like, for example, if you know that maybe what you might think it be might not be the case, but your gut is telling you something's off, then you might just commit to memory saying something like, no, something feels off to me, I want to talk about it. And so when the person tries to deter it by telling you, no, it's this, or you're not, it's like, no, my gut is telling me something's off. Let's talk about it, and maybe we can figure out what, I'm not just going to hear you throw something out and then trust that and not trust myself.
Right. Right.
So you got to start practicing it in having certain responses already kind of formulated. You can modify them on the fly, but if you can get some that are already formulated, that will really help you, and your brain will go to those when you experience it.
Yeah.
To the gaslighting person. So one of the things, Carrie, that happens a lot is the person realizes it, and they're devastated by it. The person who's been gaslighting, they're like, I can't believe I've been doing that.
Yeah.
I can see that, but they still don't necessarily know how to not do it yet. So they'll come into session and they'll say, I've been doing this and this and this, and then this person was, their partner was frustrated at that, and then I look at them and I was like, that sounds like gaslighting, man. Like, it's kind of it's still kind of the same thing, and then they get really perplexed by it and start to really not trust themselves, which is part of the process. I want to see that. So for the gaslighters, you got to really start learning to trust the perceptions of the people around you that are caring for you.
That's right.
Now, yes, an injured partner isn't the poster child of sanity.
Sure, they're a little bit hurting.
Yeah, they're hurting, and so their interpretation of messages is being filtered through that pain, for sure. So of course, certain things that might not be taken personal might get taken personal, and that's okay. But I'm still telling you that when it comes to relationships that have intense gaslighting, they're still saner.
Right.
In that situation. So you still got to learn to trust them when they say something's off. You're like, I don't feel like anything's off. They're like, but I've been doing something for months or years, maybe my whole life, that I'm just now learning I was doing. And so maybe my perceptions of reality aren't the clearest right now. So I need to start asking the other person, okay, so let's just say the person, your partner says, something feels off to me, and you're like, nothing feels off to me, well, then you want to follow that up with saying, but tell me what you're seeing. And it's just a simple addition to that conversation, but tell me what you're seeing.
It's that pause of, oh, well, I recognize that I'm not the best judge of the situation.
Exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's temporary. I think Patrick Carnes calls it a provisional belief system.
Yes.
So it's temporary, and and through the work that you're doing, you can start learning to trust your reality, because what's happening there is just it's the collision of fantasy and reality. So the law, what I say is the laws of fantasy don't apply in reality. Like there are things that you can do in the world of fantasy that just wouldn't work in reality, which they don't really work in fantasy either, because fantasy
is fantasy.
It's fantasy, right? But so I can say certain things or do certain things in my fantasy and get away with it. That really doesn't work that way in reality. And so, but your fantasy mind is happening in reality, so it can get blended together, and you think you're operating in reality, but you're still operating from some law or principle that is from the fantasy, and it takes a little bit to get used to rewriting those rules, you know. So
right, it takes practice.
Yeah,
I think that what you're pointing out is to have things to say, to bring on that conversation for both sides. And really what's happening too is slowing down, building awareness, adding just that next step of, wait, hold on, my gut tells me something, or wait, I didn't see it that way, but what did you see? Slowing it down, making space for another conversation, another statement. That's how you start this. That's how you chip away at this process. And it takes two people that are brave enough to be willing to add that next line, that next conversation, to pause and to get that extra feedback.
Yeah.
It is. It's a challenge, building that awareness and then speaking to it. Right.
Yeah. So I can't think of anything else really that would fit the gaslighting, other than going through specifics of but we cover those on the YouTube videos that we did. You're welcome to check those out, and you're welcome to send us questions or through email or however you want to, and we might be able to do other videos on that or other topics. But we're going to be doing these live shows once a month. This is the first time we did it on YouTube. We used to do them on our Facebook page, but we're going to try to do these on YouTube, see what happens. So, but we appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the rebroadcast version of it. We really have a desire to get more information out to people through these means, so that you can start your healing process with it. So there is hope on the other side of this. Absolutely. For couples that are going through betrayal trauma, or might be referred to as affair recovery. It's not going to be like that forever. That's right. And for those people that are realizing they've been gaslighting, like, there's hope for you on the other side of this too. Like, you just got to remember that it doesn't make you a bad person. It just means there's something going on for you that you got to figure out, so that your behavior doesn't hurt other people.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. Well, we hope it was helpful. We'll continue to do these, and getting your feedback helps us to know what you all think would be the most helpful too.
Right. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
See ya.